Hello, chess friends, and welcome to Azadov's chess channel, and welcome to another great game from the round one of this Magnus Carlsen Invitational tournament in 2020. Is this top grandmaster Alireza Firouzja versus top grandmaster Liren. This is really the clash of titans because Alireza, if you know, he crushed really Magnus Carlsen in his Banter Blitz Cup in 2020 in this Blitz games. He outplayed really the great Magnus, and today he faced another shark, Liren, the top three seeded chess player now these days. And this was really an interesting match game. As you know, they're playing this four rapid games. Uh, it shows really this great attacking skills by Alireza Firouzja, but it also shows the experience of Liren, how he doesn't get nervous when he gets into tactics. So when he gets into tactics, he finds really this solution of particular positions, and it also shows this unexperience by Alireza Firouzja, because in this game that I wanted to show you today, Alireza had, I think, a winning move which he didn't saw, or maybe he was lacking on time, but it's really sort of a must move. Then you have really the opportunity to crush even Liren in this other time format, because it's a huge difference to play blitz games than these rapid games, because in these blitz games that Firouzja won against Magnus Carlsen, it gives you also sometimes the opportunity to play maybe a bad move, but then you can improve the position. But still, in these rapid games, you have to be accurate, because such a shark like Liren will of course punish every of your mistakes. And here I wanted to show you such a game. It again shows how great Alireza is, because he basically outplayed a little bit Liren in the opening, but then made really two big mistakes and lost the game eventually. So let's check out the game. We have e4 here played by Alireza, c5 by Liren, knight to c3, the preparation to go maybe into a close Sicilian after d6, knight to f3. Now we have this normal variation, now knight to f6, d4, c takes d, knight takes d, and now a6. Liren played the Najdorf, and whenever we have the Najdorf, the game cannot be boring, of course. This will be this opposite side attack game which we always like. And now bishop to e3 played by Alireza, knight to g5 immediately. It doesn't bring you so much, the bishop will just transpose, or you lost the tempo. So here e5, still common theory. Now we come to this most common position of this Najdorf defense, knight to b3, bishop to e6. As the knight is not on f3 anymore, the bishop can come on this very active square. It cannot be challenged by the knight on g5 because it's far away from the bishop, so it's a possibility to place the bishop on e6, which is still the common theory of the Najdorf. We have f3, and now h5 by Liren. d5 doesn't bring you so much. It seems like an liberating move. It seems like a simplification move, but here I think white can simply proceed. Knight takes d, e takes d, queen takes d, queen takes d, another problem, but now simply queenside castling, and I think white is faster in the development. Still, the bishop has to retreat. You don't want, of course, to give up the bishop pair in an early stage of the game, but now there is also a weak square in black's position. Pardon me, it's the weak square on c5, so this could be a problem in long terms here for black. So that's why here after the move f3, Liren didn't go and didn't play this move d5. He played the move h5, which Maxim Vachier-Lagrave often plays in this Najdorf defense. It seems like a weakening pawn move, but it's really a necessary move. It's, I think, the highest level now of Najdorf playing, because this h5 can be endangered sometimes. It will be a problem. For instance, it can be attacked by a bishop, maybe with another minor piece, but at least it stops a little bit white's attack on the king side. So white's main idea is, of course, to push the pawn on g4 to create this early flank attack. As I said, we will have this opposite side attack game in which white will try queen to d2, queenside castling, and then very fast g4, h4, and g5 ideas, really this common pawn breakthrough motifs. This h5 move at least stops white's attack for a little bit. At least white cannot play this g4 immediately, and now Alireza played queen to d2 anyway with queenside castling preparation. So knight from b to d7. You see how compact now this pawns of the pieces are of Liren. They are really glued together, sort of. So basically nothing can happen so far, although the main issues of the Najdorf is, of course, the weak square on d5 and this weak pawn on d6. But so far white cannot attack these weaknesses in black's position. That's also the strength of the Najdorf. So far it's not so easy to attack this weakness. We should really try different ways, and still we want to make, of course, our main idea this pawn breakthrough on the king side. So queen side castling, we have bishop to e7, king to b1, and now b5. You see, in this opposite side attack games, you want, of course, to attack your opponent's king. On the other hand, white will try attack the king on the flank attack on the king side. So a3. And here rook to c8 was played, and now h3 by Alireza. Very important move to maybe finally launch this pawn on g4. It's still not a possibility because there are also some tactical threats on the h file. If you try, for instance, some moves like knight to d5, it seems that you have occupied really this weak squares. It could be a problem because black can immediately take, I think bishop takes d5, after e takes d5, now knight to b6, immediately challenging now this weak pawn, and black, white would be forced to give up this bishop for the knight after queen to b6. I like simply more black's position because there is one problem in white's position. Now we have the static center now set up here, and after castling, black could always make some progress with some potential f5, e4 pawn breakthroughs. You see the c file is open. Still, we could search also queen to c7 ideas. Many choices now for black to attack. On the other hand, I think white is a little bit paralyzed here, so that's why here this knight to d5 idea, it seems like a good idea sometimes. I've seen many times white rushing into this knight to d5 outposts, and now it's really a bad idea, as you see the possible continuation. So h3, as I said, was played, not this knight to d4 idea, and now h4. You see, Liren is blocking out the king side, not allowing the main idea of white is to push the pawn here on g3 and then to play maybe f4, because then we would have really a flexible pawn structure. Then you want, of course, to recapture with the pawn and create really some flank attack possibilities. But in the game h4, it a little bit blocks out now. Again, the king side g4 is again not a possibility because we can always take en passant. So f4 played by Alireza, cracking the position immediately, which comes with the idea when your opponent has the king in the center, attack the center, try to open the center. It's really sort of a forcing move in order to really force Liren finally to castle, because this compact position of these pieces in front of the king allows now Liren to stay a little bit longer in the center. But this f4 move really forces now Liren to castle, and now comes f5. I've also analyzed this move. It seems like a good move, f5, bishop to f2, attacking the pawn on h4. It's really dangerous because there is this main tactical threat in Najdorf defense. Here we can play rook to c3. After queen takes c3, knight takes e4, deflecting the knight here from the defense of the... here the pawn was really endangered, and now you see after queen to e1 we could simply play f5, and this knight is really an annoying knight. White would probably be forced to play something like bishop to d3, and now after knight takes f2, queen takes f2, you see this central pawn storm, although down the exchange, but we have at least taken a centralized piece. This rook to c3 is really a common tactical threat for those who are playing maybe the Najdorf. Sometimes you should really calculate this possible rook takes c3 exchange sacrifice. Here after potential, I don't know, g6 move, I think black doesn't have any positional problems. Again, this pawn breakthrough motifs don't work. Still, this pawn is now protected by the bishop, and now we should maybe try finally to get our pawn breakthroughs, to get use of this central pawn storm that's possible. Even knight to c5 possibilities are possible. Still queen to c7, rook to c8, really natural attacking moves here in black's position. So in the game, as said, Alireza didn't play this move bishop to f2. He tried f5, and also one of the common ideas of the Najdorf is to force your opponent. This is really sort of a provocative move, this move bishop to e6. When f5 happens, then of course you have to give up your light square bishop. But after c takes b3, now we have the opportunity to really play this very nice knight outpost, and this knight is really dangerous. Now Alireza has to take it. Basically, it's not so good to protect it with moves as bishop to d3. Then this bishop is too paralyzed just in order to defend here this pawn. So that's why Alireza took. We have the bishop takes c5, d takes c5, and we have now already a problematic position as we have now this opposite colored bishops. Here this bishop on f1 and this bishop on e7. So if this game goes into an endgame, it could be a draw, but this is the night of course many dangerous things will happen. Here in the game, queen to e1 played by Alireza, and this I think was sort of a line maybe Liren didn't see, that now finally maybe this pawn could be endangered. Here queen takes let's go back here. Queen takes d8 doesn't bring you so much to simplify the position. Here after trades of rooks, you would be forced here maybe to simply defend the pawn on e4, but now this b4 idea is the main tactical threat of blacks to deflect the knight from the defense of this e4. You see this e4 is always problematic for white. Here after maybe a takes b4, c takes b4, knight to e2 can be played, but now rook to d2 attacking, and now after king to c1 there is this tactic to finally take the pawn, deflecting the bishop from the defense of this knight, and I think again black has a comfortable game. So that's why here queen to e1, no trades of queens, no simplifications are possible here. Queen to c7 now finally Liren finishes the development, connects the rooks, which is also a very important stage of the chess game, of course, and now g4. This is a tricky move as it really forces now finally black to take en passant. If you take here immediately this pawn on h4, then it leads into a very dangerous line. Black has the opportunity to challenge the rook on the d file, and the problem is white doesn't have the rook connection. That's why I pointed to this rook connection out as an important stage of the chess game, because you see now if for instance white takes after bishop takes d8, we want to stay with this queen and rook battery on the c file. Now you could try maybe g4, which seems like a logical move because we're threatening some g5 possibilities, but here b4 is simply faster. Again, you have to do something, and if you deflect the knight, then we have really some dangerous check possibilities. Even this pawn on e4 is hanging, so I think this would be deadly simply for white. We have also, of course, this knight to e4 would come also with the discovered attack. Realizing these problems, here Alireza didn't take. He played this move g4 after h takes g3 en passant, queen takes g3, and this is now already a tricky position for Liren because now the g file is opened, so Alireza has some counter-attack possibilities. In the game, rook to d8 was played, and now bishop to e2. This is a very important move as it restricts this knight's ability to jump on h5, because after rook to g1, we don't want to have this defender. But it was also a very important move for Liren to play rook to d8. Then we could maybe defend with the move knight to e8, because the main target of whites is this g7 pawn. This is the main problem. In the game, bishop to f8. So here Liren tries to defend this pawn, try to maybe play much more active, because the knight as a protective piece is not such a good idea. Maybe this knight can be used in order to finally crack the position around this e4 square. So h4. Now Alireza doesn't lose any tempos. Now the main idea is to play h5 and h6. The problem for black in this possible attack would be that you cannot, after the move h6, you cannot pass through with the move g6, as this pawn is already standing on f5. So this pawn would always take the pawn on g6. So you see, Alireza is two more moves far away from a dangerous attack, I think. That's why here Liren had to be active. He played queen to b7 with the counter-attack idea to challenge this weak e4 pawn, and now queen to g2. Here Alireza defends the pawn, trying also to stay with the queen on the g file, which is very important, and now rook to d4. Liren simply puts more pressure, but now h5, simply attacking here this very endangered king. As I said, in this opposite side attack games, it's always important to be faster, and here h5, it's already dangerous for Liren. That's why he had to play accurate now, and he played the move knight to e4. And the problem is now the next move by Alireza. He played the move bishop to f3. A better idea is this bishop to f3 is a problem because this knight takes c3 idea comes always with a check. The king is on b1, so after potential knight takes c3, this comes with a tempo. So that's the main difference. Here, a better move for Alireza would have been to play the move king to a1. Hiding the king, it's not a problem anymore that this knight to c3 idea follows because the queen is pinned. So black would be forced to play something like knight to d6 here, and now there is really a great tactical threat here. Bishop to f3. Now it's the correct move to place the bishop on this light square diagonal. After something like e4, we have the possibility to play knight takes e4. After knight takes e4, now comes this move f6. Now we are faster, although down a piece, but it's not a problem. We'll take this piece in a couple of moves. Now after potential rook to d1, rook takes d1, rook to e8 is a forced line, and now rook to g1, attacking this g7 weakness. If black, for instance, plays a counter attack here on the c4, taking is not such a powerful idea, then we can simply play f takes g7 after bishop takes c5, attacking the bishop. Now the king is secured so far by the pawn, but now rook to e1, I think, wins the game for white, because there are also some tactical threat with some h6 h7 moves. So as said, I think this move king to a1 after knight takes e4 would win the game for Alireza, but in the game he played this dangerous bishop to f3 idea, and now Liren simply took this. You can see these problems. Knight takes c3 comes with a check here, b takes c3, and now Liren closes the light squares. Alireza took c takes d4, but now e takes f3 comes also with the tempo. The queen comes on g4, and now queen to d5. You see Liren reorganized, played really now the simple threats in order to keep white occupied, because as I said, still these threats are possible. This f6 threat, this h6 threat, nothing is won so far for Liren. He has to be accurate still in this position, although white's king is also in danger. The b3 weakness is also present, and now rook to d3 played by Alireza, simply defending the pawn on b3. If you try king to b2, this would be a mistake, because we can simply take c takes d4. After queen takes d4, queen to f5, taking the pawn. That's the main problem. Now that this pawn breakthrough motif is not such a problem, as we can always try to pass through, and then bishop to g7 would be a really dangerous move. So this of course, Alireza realized rook to d4 here is even worse, because you get queen to c5, and it comes with a double attack. We have the threat to play check on c2 or c3, or this check on a3. So that's why Alireza played the correct move here. Let's go back. He played, instead of this king to b2 idea, he played rook to d3, and now c4. And okay, Alireza took, queen takes f3, trying to get the queens off the board, because when we have the queens off the board, then no checkmate threats are possible. So then the position would be simplified. We would go into an endgame with two rooks versus a rook and a bishop. In the game, of course, Liren is not interested in trading off queens, played the move queen to d6, and now comes, I think, again, the second mistake that Alireza played, and it was simply too much. He played the move b takes c4. This is a problem, because you opening the b file here. After b takes c4, you opening the b file for the rook. The king is endangered again. A better idea here is to play rook to c1, as you cannot take immediately this pawn or the rook, because your own rook is hanging. So in the possible continuation, maybe queen to f6 would be really a necessary move, because as I mentioned before, this f6 idea is really a serious threat. If that happens, white will probably win the game. But after queen to f6, we have now finally the opportunity to take, as the queen is a little bit far from the action now. After b takes c4, we could try rook to d1, and now the idea rook to b8 is not such a powerful idea anymore. We can hide with our king, not a problem, and compete with the rook on the b file. This pawn is protected, and also the very important thing is that this pawn on a3 is protected. This bishop is also dangerously aiming against this a3. So Again, Alireza missed this tactic here. He played b takes c4, b takes c4, and now he is in real troubles because this idea to regroup now, rook to c1, in order to make the spin happen is not a possibility because we can play simply rook to b8 and in the next move we'll take the rook. So you see the difference between in this move order in the game. Rook to c3 here played by Alireza, try to keep some kind of a compact position, but now queen to d4, we have rook to c1, and now bishop to a3. This bishop's activity is too much to handle now. Too many tactical threats. If you take, for instance, rook takes a3, then rook to b8. Again, this is the main problem in Alireza's position. So here, after bishop takes a3, we have rook to c2, and now bishop to e7, preventing again this f6 idea, because if now f6 happens, then we have bishop takes f6 again. Then the bishop and the queen will build a powerful battery in the game. Queen to b7, attacking the rook, and now Liren simply regrouped a little bit. Queen to d8. He knows now that his king is not endangered anymore. The king side attack is splashed a little bit. Now it's time to regroup, try to maybe find the best diagonal for the bishop and simply play against this endangered king. So rook to d2, not a problem. Queen to f8, hiding with the pieces a little bit, as I said, regrouping in the game. King to c2 was played, and now bishop to f6, very important move. And now rook to d7 in the game, rook to b8, attacking the queen. Queen to c7, and now finally, after trades of pieces, we have now new position in which Liren is 2 pawns up, which is of course winning. Let's see what happened. Queen to b4 check, king to d4, queen to d2, and now after a couple of checks, the king came to finally to c4, and now queen to c2, attacking the king, and now finally trading off the queens and also taking this pawn. And in the next move, we can take, of course, this pawn. This would be too much to handle. 2 connected pass pawns is, of course, completely winning endgame here for black. Okay, great game it was. That's why as I mentioned in my previous videos, I really like this format. It allows you to maybe play some slightly inaccuracies. Maybe you can get back. But it was also a great game here, I think, by Alireza. It was also a great game by Liren. Of course, he's the more experienced player. You see how he exploits all of the weaknesses. When he has the chances, he will win the game if you don't use the immediate chance to crush him. So I think Alireza made these 2 big mistakes, and he lost the game. I'm sorry a little bit for him. I really like Alireza Firouzja, as he played this Banter Blitz Cup very nicely. And okay, we'll see what will happen in the continuation. In his first match game, he lost the match game against Liren. It's not a problem. Still more rounds to play. I wish him all of the best. Okay, meanwhile, you can watch my other commented chess games so far. Here's the link, and you can also watch my best chess games of all time if you want to see the best chess games that have been ever played in chess history. And you can also watch my commented chess games played by computers with some Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, Stockfish games, and many more. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.